Okay, so I'm going to respond to my opponent's claim that technology advancements have impacted human communication and interaction in an overall negative way. And her secondary claims were that technology affects the communication in education negatively, and it affects, second, it affects the social networking negatively. My claim is that my opponent did not have enough info or not enough qualified information to declare that technology has affected us negatively. To her first claim that the negative effects of communication in education, you didn't get the point. She stated that students do not pay attention in the classroom because they are distracted by their phones, iPods, or any other technologies. But she didn't state that research has been done by many people, such as Jeffrey Fletcher, a student behavior researcher, that students don't pay attention even if there are distractions. The average mind span of a student in a classroom is 2 minutes. He believes that instead of banning any technological communication in the classroom, teachers should try and integrate those tools to their benefit, since it's obviously what the students are interested in, and they pay more attention to that. As an example of trying to ban the technology, how many of you used online sources for your speeches? That's everyone. So if people try to ban them, you wouldn't be able to. You would have to redo, go to the library, look at only books, which you don't want to do, obviously. And so that's just an example. She also stated that online discussions, the teachers don't really monitor the postings, and therefore it isn't an accurate learning process. But her source, from Matthew Thomas, he wrote it in 1999, and all the sources he used were from 1972 to 1998. Obviously, technology has changed in the last 10 years dramatically, so that's not qualified. As an example, my last quarter, I had an online discussion every week, and I mean, it was nothing. I had to be on it. He monitored it all the time. So you had to post your assignments on time or you fail. So her second claim was that technology affects the communication in social networking negatively. The sources she used, she took them, my opponent took it out of context. Her sources imply that technology has had a positive effect on social networking and its communications. It's just that the media has made people think opposite. One of her sources, Nicole Ellison, professor of telecommunications, took a survey and found that undergraduates who use social networking intensively had higher bridging social capital scores. These students were using social networking to access more information and diverse perspectives. The participants used the sites to look up old high school acquaintances, to find information about people in their classrooms or in their dorms, to get contact information for friends and other activities. Ellison also explained that these kinds of networks like Facebook and MySpace were encouraged widespread on the news that they were bad for young people in America. Yes, there have been cases in which students have been shown poor judgment regarding their profile disclosures. However, tools that enable us to engage in online self-presentation and connect with others will increasingly part of our social and professional landscape. There's examples of good uses of the social networking. IBM created internet social network site Beehive to encourage more collaboration and communication across the teams. In India, Babajob harnesses social networking tools to pair employers with those who seek work. And of course, there are such instances where people use bad judgment, but there's not enough to declare a negative effect on our community. It is obvious that we have been misled because there's not enough information if the technology has a negative overall effect on us.
All right, I thought you started out pretty well. You identified what the advocate's main and secondary claims were, so it should be pretty easy to follow. You challenged the sufficiency of the advocate's proof, and that seems to be the main approach that you're going to be taking on those arguments. I thought you got a little sidetracked on the first point. There's a challenge on the focus of the argument and what the source of the problem is. I thought that you had some nice causality information. That's the argument that says basically students don't pay attention, period. It's got nothing to do with whether or not they've got toys to play with. It's, you know, they're just short attention span theater is happening right in their head. So they can't, you know, they can't really focus. So I thought that was a good alternate causality argument. And you know, you use the example of online resources being integrated in the classroom as an illustration about how this could actually be beneficial. And I thought that was okay. You had a nice challenge to the recency of the advocate's evidence on the one point. Although context was a little unclear, it sounds like it's a problem with the chat and whether or not that's being monitored by the faculty member. You've got a personal example that you use, so I've got 10-year-old data based on a wide variety of information versus a more recent example, and it's a singular example. It's hard to evaluate the contrast between those two things. Now, the signpost on the transition to the second point was very clear. It was not clear to me, though, how the argument that you're presenting fit either your position or the advocate's position. You said at one point that something was taken out of context, but the explanation was not very clear. And in fact, the way you were describing it, it didn't sound like it supported the advocate's position at all. Maybe it supports the position that you're taking, but that was not clarified in the way it was presented. You fall a little bit into reading your presentation at this point instead of explaining the ideas, and I think that gets to be a little problematic. I liked a couple of the examples that you had at the end, and you do come back to the main point that you're trying to make, which is that the advocate didn't provide you sufficient information to reach these conclusions. I'm not sure that you've given us sufficient reason to doubt the conclusions, but I thought you raised some good questions on the points. All right. Thank you.